Today I'm going to share the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the most violent and hidden acts of racism in U.S. history. This event didn't just destroy lives and a community, it erased generational Black wealth. Let's go back and see what actually happened. Greenwood was a Black neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, centered around Greenwood Avenue. It was filled with Black-owned businesses, from grocery stores and barbershops to doctor's offices, schools, and theaters. In a time of deep segregation, Greenwood wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. That's why it became known as Black Wall Street, a bold symbol of Black excellence and self-sufficiency. This image shows Greenwood Avenue before it was destroyed. Busy, proud, and full of life. Here are a few more glimpses into life in Greenwood before the massacre. This couple, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, owned the first movie theater for Black people in Tulsa. It sat 750 people and became a popular gathering place. It shows how Greenwood wasn't just economically successful, it had its own culture and entertainment. Mount Zion Baptist Church was the largest Black church in Tulsa. It was one of several churches burned down during the attack. Before we talk about the spark that ignited the violence, we have to talk about the fuel that had been building for years. Greenwood's success flew in the face of white supremacy. Black residents were building wealth, owning land, and even benefiting from Tulsa's booming oil industry. But instead of celebrating this, many white residents saw it as a threat to their power. That resentment, that deep economic jealousy, was already there long before anything happened in an elevator. This oil field helped make Tulsa one of the wealthiest cities in the country, and some of that prosperity reached Greenwood. That was enough to stir rage among those who couldn't stand to see Black success. The violence officially started when a young Black man named Dick Rowland was accused of assaulting a white woman, Sarah Page, in an elevator. The details are still unclear, and Sarah Page never pressed charges. But that didn't matter. White mobs quickly gathered, demanding Rowland be lynched. Black residents, many of them war veterans, came to protect him, and a confrontation at the courthouse turned into a spark that exploded into mass violence. This headline about Dick Rowland and Sarah Page helped incite the mob. It's one of the only records from that time, and later it was removed from the archives. This is where the standoff began, outside the courthouse, where a crowd of hundreds grew increasingly hostile. What happened next was an organized attack. From the night of May 31st into the afternoon of June 1st, white mobs burned over 35 blocks of Greenwood. Homes, businesses, churches, and schools were torched. Some attackers even used private planes to drop firebombs, an aerial assault on American citizens. This wasn't just chaos. It was a targeted, coordinated effort to wipe a Black community off the map. You can see smoke engulfing the neighborhood here, and Mount Zion Church, again, being consumed by flames. When it was over, more than 10,000 people were left homeless. No one was ever arrested or convicted. Insurance companies refused to pay for the damages. Survivors had to live in tents trying to rebuild from nothing. Greenwood, once a symbol of prosperity, was turned into ash, physically and economically. This overcrowded hospital shows how overwhelmed the city was. Victims lay wounded while the world outside pretended nothing had happened. For decades, this massacre was buried. It wasn't taught in schools. It wasn't in textbooks, and survivors were often too afraid or ashamed to speak. One of the clearest examples, that inflammatory Tulsa Tribune article we saw earlier, it was removed from the public archives, erased, on purpose. It's only in recent years, with anniversaries and national reckoning, that the truth has begun to resurface. This march honors Black Wall Street's legacy, and this photo shows President Biden visiting Greenwood, the first sitting president to officially acknowledge what happened. Even now, the effects of the massacre are still being felt. Greenwood has never fully recovered. In 2021, some of the last living survivors testified before Congress, including Viola Fletcher, who was 107 at the time. Her words gave voice to a history too long ignored. But Greenwood today remains underdeveloped. The community still faces economic disparities and a lack of investment. The trauma didn't end in 1921. It's been passed down for generations. Here's Viola Fletcher speaking before Congress, and here's a recent photo of Greenwood, still scarred by what happened a century ago. These are the words of Viola Fletcher. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget the history, but I cannot. I will not. This isn't just history. It's memory still alive in those who lived through it. And now we're left with a question. What does justice look like now? Is it reparations? Is it rebuilding what was lost? Or is it simply telling the truth loudly and unapologetically? Learning about this matters, but what really matters is what we choose to do with that knowledge.